Alright everybody, today we're gonna deploy a NestJS application to AWS EC2 instance using Docker. I built a block API project using NestJS, so I'm gonna deploy it, but you can deploy whatever you want. Doesn't matter, we're not gonna focus on the source code, we just only create a Docker file, then a Docker Compose YAML file, and then we're going to create an EC2 instance and then deploy it to the server. That's all we're going to do, and I'm going to show you everything step by step so you can you can see the big picture of deployment, right? So let's get started. First, in the root of the directory, I'm going to create a Docker file. So I'm going to create a Docker file and Docker Compose YAML file before going to production environments. I find it more easy way. That's better, I think. It makes it more clear and organized before going to production. Anyway, you can do whatever you want, but let's start. So we will have two stage. We're going to use multi-stage builds to optimize the final Docker image size because we're using TypeScript with NestJS, and we're going to compile TypeScript to JavaScript, and after that we don't need TypeScript files, right? And also we don't need production div dependencies in the node modules as well. So we're just trying to remove those things to optimize our image size, final image size. So let's start and see how it goes. Our first stage will be build. Let's call it like that. It's just the comments. And then we will have from our base image will be node 80 alpine, and I'm gonna say it's going to build. So it's going to be build stage, right? And after that I'm going to create a work directory. It's going to be user source app, and then I'm going to copy the package JSON file, and then I'm going to run npm install to install the dependencies, and then I'm going to copy all the source code to this container file system. And after I get all the codes, I'm going to run the build script to compile TypeScript to JavaScript. And as you probably know, it will compile to dist folder because that's how I configured in the config.json, tsconfig.json file, right? The out directory is dist. So it will basically create a dist folder and then compile JavaScript into this folder. So this is all about with the build stage. So let's go with the prod stage, production stage. So we can basically copy those things except for this build alias, and we're going to copy from build stage, and we're going to copy from the user source app dist to dist. Right, so what does that mean? Well, we're basically copying things from this stage, from this file system, and as you know, after we run the script, we have a dist folder after that, right? And we basically get those JavaScript files from this folder and create a dist folder inside this production stage, and copying all those things to this folder, right? That's what's going on here. And after that, we need to copy the package JSON again, and I'm gonna run npm install, and this time we don't need div dependencies, so I'm just going to say only production. So it will only just install production dependencies. And after we done with the installation, actually we done with the package.json file, actually, in fact, whatever, because package.json is just for indicating which module is going to be installed through npm. And after we're done with the installation, we don't need them. They are trash anymore. So it's better to remove them for better optimized image. So I'm just gonna run rm package JSON. And after that, I'm gonna expose a port. It's going to be 3000. You can choose whatever you want. But I want my application to listen on port 3000. And the run script will be node dist main.js. In this part you can ask yourself that, man, we have a script called start prods that run the same code. Why don't we use that? Well, you can use it, but you should delete this instruction if you want to use this script, because in that case, like without removing this instruction here, if you try to use this script, it will give you an error. Because basically, like, let me show you. If you say npm run start prods, like, imagine yourself in this container. You're like getting the JavaScript files to this folder, and then copying the package.json, then installing all those things and creating node modules, right? And after that, you're just creating the package.json. Now, in this container file system, there is only two folders, dist and node modules, nothing else, right? And then you just start trying to execute this code, which depends on the package.json. Without package.json, this means nothing, like literally nothing. And that's why you will get an error that says, man, this is not a valid command or something, right? So, like, it's better to use node dist main.js, because it doesn't require any package.json or something. So with that way we can just like start our container more optimized, right? So that's it. One more thing, we can actually set our node.env, node environment, to production from development, because by default it is set to development. And like, if we set it to production, it will behave based on this variable. Like, it will behave like it's on the production. So it will give us some advantage that I don't know yet. Yeah, I don't know what it will be used for in the future, but I see that a lot. I think it's the best practice to do that. Let me show you. We use arg, and it's basically stands for arguments, and it will enables us to create a variable. Like, this is obvious, and I'm just going to call it node.env, and it's going to be production. And after that, I'm going to say env, and it's for creating declaring environment variables, and our environment variables is node.env, and the value will be node.env right here. So we're basically set the node.env environment variable to the production, right? You can basically say production in here like that, but I think it's best practice to use both like that. That's what I saw in the internet, and I also asked it to ChatGPT, and it shows me the same thing. It's better to use them together, but the main idea is we're setting the node.env to production from development. So that's what it's for. But that's whole thing for the Docker file. We're done with it. So now next step is creating the Docker compose. So let's create it real quick. Docker compose. Alright, our version will be 3, and we have two sources, backend and database. Backend, you can call it whatever you wish. Our build path will be the root directory, because our Docker file exists in the root directory, and then our container name will be NestJS API. That's what I'm going to call it. You can just call it whatever you want, as I said. And after that, we need to set some environment variables such as ports, right? Because basically in my source code in the main.ts, I used ports from environment variable, right? And I set it like here in the .env file. Actually, this .env file is just for development. We're not gonna even deploy it to production, but it's just for like development, as I said, to see what's going on here using environment variables, right? But now we need to pass those things to environments, just like this. Let me pass this like that. So let's make them true. Let's add a hyphen as well. So that's basically the environment variables we're passing to this container once we spin up, right? And after that, we need to say the define the port mapping, and it's going to be 3000 to 3000. And of course, we need to say the port is going to be 3000 as well. Like all ports should be same. Like it's need to be 3000, so it will listen on port 3000, and also we need to map this to port 3000 as well. And also we need to expose it in 3000 in the same port basically. So after ports, I'm gonna say it's going to be depends on database. So let's create a database, and our image will be Mongo image, and ports will be this 27017. Yep. And also we will have volumes for data persistence. I want to create a MongoDB backup folder in the root of this directory, and I want to get the data DB from the MongoDB file system. And also I want to create a network, and I'm going to call it NestJS network, and driver will be bridge. So let's add this network to both. Network, it's going to be NestJS network. Let's copy it and paste it on here as well. Alright, looks perfect. Yeah, I think we're done with it, right? We're just passing environment variables. We're define the port mapping. We say it depends on database, so it will first executing by Docker Compose, and it's going to be in the same networks, both of them. It's going to be in the same networks. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And one more thing, we need to replace this localhost with the container name of this database, and we need to give a container name. I'm gonna say MongoDB, MongoDB, yeah, MongoDB, and I need to replace it with that. So that's the beauty of environment variables, right? If we didn't use environment variables, like I need to go to the I have that module where where I registered the Mongo's module and change the connection string based on this container, and it is much likely to make mistakes without using environment variables, because you just go to the one file and then another file and then another file. Man, instead of just doing that, just create environment variables, configure the environment variables in your source code using some sort of packages such as .env or config module if you're using NestJS, and then you can just pass these values to your variables from a one file, Docker Compose file in this case. Like that's it, right? So now we're done with the Docker Compose. So it's time to push this project to GitHub, so that we can create our EC2 instance and clone this project from GitHub and spin up our containers using Docker Compose. But I don't want to include the Docker Compose YAML file to my source control system, because it includes some sensitive information, especially the JSON Web Token secret, right? So I want to go to git ignore file, and I want to put the Docker Compose YAML here to ignore this. Docker Compose YAML, right? And also we don't want this .env file as well. As I said, it's just for production, just for development. We already passed the values from our Docker Compose YAML, right? And when we clone this project to our EC2 instance, we're going to create this Docker Compose YAML file and copy this code and paste them here, which I'll show you in a minute. So that's it. Let's open up our terminal and initialize the Git here. But I think we have the Git here, right? I'm gonna remove this for a clear start. Let's delete the Git. So let's initialize again, and I'm gonna add all of them to stage. Let me check that. Great. So let's commit that. I'm gonna say initial commit. Great. Now let's go to my GitHub account and create a new repository for that. I'm going to say blog app NestJS. Right. Yep. Let's just create a repository. I'm gonna get this URL, and first I'm gonna change the branch name to main, and then I'm gonna push it to this repository to the main branch. Great. Now let's refresh the page and see the changes. It should be here. Yep, great. And we don't have Docker Compose YAML as expected. Perfect. Now let's go our AWS account and create an EC2 instance to deploy it, right? I'm going to create a launch instance. All right. I'm gonna choose the Ubuntu image. Instance type will be t2.micro. I'm gonna select my key pair that I created before, and network settings I will leave it as is, and of course we need to give a name. I'm gonna give it a name called block. Let's call it NestJS app, right? You can just call it whatever you want. It is just a name. But anyway, let's launch the instance. NestJS app. So firstly, let's go to security group, and I just want to add the port 3000 TCP rule, because otherwise we cannot access the port 3000 to access to our application, right? So I'm gonna go to the security groups, and I'm gonna edit the inbound roles. And currently we have only SSH rule, which enables us to connect to this virtual machine via SSH. And now we want to add the TCP rule for port 3000, and that will enable us to go to this IP address plus port 3000, right? And any program that works in port 3000 will be able to see them. So let's save the rules, and of course we need to define the source. You can choose your my IP, but it's not for real projects, so I'm gonna select anywhere. Doesn't really matter. But for real productions, you may want to choose only your IP address or some specified IP address. But anyway, so that's it. Let's pick up our IP address and connect to this little virtual machine. So my SSH key located in the SSH folder, so I'm gonna go there, and I'm gonna say SSH I my superkpair.pm file, and the username is Ubuntu, and this one. Perfect. Yes, I want to connect. So we're in. Great. And now, before cloning our project, I want to install Docker to this machine first. So I'm just gonna go to the Docker website to install Docker in a proper way. So I'm gonna copy those instructions step by step and install Docker as it should be, right? So yes, I want to continue. That's great. I love deployments, really. It feels like a superhero. Let's copy that as well. Paste it in here. And let's update the repository. And then we're gonna install the Docker Compose, and all other some plugins. So, yep. It's just that easy, right? Just follow these instructions from the Docker websites, and yeah, just you will have a Docker install on your machine. And now we have that. So if I say docker version, yeah, it's installed. Perfect. Now I'm going to create a folder called apps, and I'm going to clone my project to this folder. So let's go to GitHub and get this repository code link. I'm going to clone it in here. So let's get in. We have Docker file, but we ignore Docker Compose YAML file in our development environment, so we don't have it here. So I'm just going to create it here, not like that. Nano Docker Compose YAML. I will basically copy those things and paste it in here. Exactly. Just save and exit. And now we're all set up. Now all we need to do is just type in sudo docker compose up in detach mode, right? So it should spin up all our container one by one if we didn't make a stupid mistake, right? Some syntax or some sort of really frustrating mistakes. I hope we didn't. Let's see. I will say sudo docker compose up in detach mode. So let's see how it goes. Well, I love this view, really. It feels like you're in a movie, right? Alright, now we're installing the npm packages. Right, now we're only installing the production dependencies. We're in the production stage now, right? Alright, it's done. Almost. Come on, man. Alright, it's done. Perfect. It just spin up all containers very like as expected and create our networks, and everything looks good. Now let's see if it's really like that. Docker ps, and yeah, perfect. Our containers just running perfectly, and it's mapped to port 3000 to 3000 TCP. Now let's open up our Postman, and of course we need to get the IP address. Let's get that, and I'm gonna go to Postman. I'm gonna port 3000, and like it should be like this. I think we have a problem. Let's see the logs. Docker logs. Alright, everything looks good. It's running on port 3000 and it's connected to the database. So what's the problem? Get those things and paste it in here. Come on, man. Alright, I found it. It was just because of my bad internet connection. So it's just working. I didn't change anything. So if you go to Postman or any browser and type your IP address plus port, and like currently, if I send a GET request to this port, come on man, just give me a response. So let's try the same thing in here. I'm getting that. Why did? Okay, it gives the same thing. So it just shows me that it's working because I put a guard in front of this route. So without putting a valid token in the authorization header, it will return an unauthorized. So that really doesn't matter. But in the post request, I'm gonna add it. Like, man, why just do that? And we have auth route, we have a register. It's about source code, right? I'm just trying to test it. And I'm gonna send some body, email and password, and it should return me a JSON web token. Let's try this. Alright, it worked as expected. So that means that we pass the JWT secrets ports in MongoDB connection string properly. So it basically saved it to the database with a secret, and it's working on port 3000. So all the variables, environment variables, sent perfectly. Like our containers are running, so there's nothing wrong. Basically, we deploy it correctly. So let's just go to apps again, the blog apps. So now we have MongoDB backup for volumes for MongoDB, right? And this basically keeps some data for data persistence. If you just want to take a look at it, there are a lot. Right, it's just for, as I said, keeping for data. And also, like let's say sudo docker ps, not like that, ps. Our MongoDB container ID is that, so I just want to get into it, right? So I'm just going to say exec it for d and bash, right? Of course, prefix with the sudo. And now we're in. Let's go to the Mongo sh, Mongo shell. Now, if I say show dbs, it'll show me the blog app which I connect to. Let's use that. I'm just trying to show you that it's working properly, right? It's just for testing. And if I say db users dot find, it'll show me the object that I just created now with this post request, right? Perfect. Now we can just get out now. Yeah, that's it. And also, if you want to take a look at, to the NestJS container, you can go there, sh, and now we have only dist and node modules folder. This is the final image, remember, right? We remove package.json. We don't include source folder or test folder or any other configuration files that we don't need to run our JavaScript files. That's basically the most optimized way to deploy a NestJS application to production environments, right? But that's it. We successfully deploy our NestJS application to AWS EC2 instance using Docker. Yeah, that's going to be the title of the video, right? How to deploy or deploying NestJS app to AWS EC2 instance with Docker. Yeah, that's going to be the title. But that's it. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye bye.